Topic of laughter has been something that's been important to me for a long time. And as I was saying to the children, it's contagious. It makes me feel good when I laugh. I would rather laugh than to be an old frump about things, even in times of trouble. Laughter helps things. So that's our focus for today, is laughter. So what is laughter? Well, there are a variety of different ways we could define laughter. It's the sound produced while laughing. It's a response to external or internal stimuli. It's an auditory expression of a number of positive emotional states, such as joy, mirth, happiness, or relief. You know how sometimes when we're going through a stressful situation and things calm down or resolve, we're just so relieved that when we start to relax, we can laugh, and it feels good. Laughter is also a physiological response to humor, something that happens within our body. It's rhythmic, vocalized, expiratory, and involuntary actions. Some synonyms for laughter could be cackle, chortle, chuckle, giggle, snicker, titter, or twitter. Well, what if some people said about laughter? Laugh and find humor in every day. A Jewish proverb says, "It is better to laugh about your problems than to cry about them." Rick Warren said, "A sense of humor is God's antidote for anger and frustration." There is a difference between loving someone's sense of humor and being thankful for the times of laughter we enjoy with him or her. While it's true we like to laugh, what we like more, this seems to say, is being around people and sharing that time of laughter with them. It makes us feel good. Laughter provides a great feeling. And even after the moment has passed, you will still find yourself chuckling as you think back to the humor in the situation that caused you to laugh in the first place. I think we've all probably done that. Months, years later, perhaps, we think back to something that happened that was funny, that caused us to laugh. So it stays with us and brings us a sense of comfort. What was significant, this is by Norman Cousins, what was significant about the laughter was not just the fact that it provides internal exercise for a person, form of jogging for the innards, but that it creates a mood in which the other positive emotions can be put to work. Yes, laughter and a sense of humor bloom where you are planted, and watch the joy you bring to yourself and others. Zig Ziglar said, "Selling can be and should be fun. So let's make it clear from the beginning that a sense of humor combined with self-esteem that allows you to laugh at yourself will play a significant part in your success in your chosen profession." Rita Davenport said, "Not that what I say is always funny, Although I do put a lot of importance on humor, because I think it helps us keep things in perspective. And even when it doesn't succeed in doing that, at least it keeps us sane. And if it doesn't do that, it still makes us laugh. And laughing is good for you. So let's go to the Bible at this point. Does the Bible say that God laughs? It does. In fact, there are 4 passages that directly state that God laughs. The first one is Psalm 2:4, and this is probably the most direct passage, and it reads, "He who sits in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall hold them in derision." Here, David prophesies regarding Jesus' coming and the forces of evil that will come against him and his kingdom. The evil forces will be defeated, and the psalmist says that God laughs at them. God, in essence, laughs at their defeat and foolishness. The psalmist says directly that God laughs. The second passage is Psalm 59:8, and it shows us something quite similar when it says, "But you, O Lord, shall laugh at them. You shall have all the nations in derision." Here, David is ruminating about his enemies and their eventual defeat. And then third, we move to Psalm 37:13, which reads, "The Lord laughs at him, for he sees that his day is coming." So in those 3 cases, David not only indicates that God laughs, but in each case he indicates God will laugh at the defeat of evil forces. There is one other passage that shows that God laughs, and that's Job 41:29, which reads, "Darts are regarded as straw. He laughs at the threat of javelins." In this verse, God is laughing at those who would threaten him. Next, I'd like to look at the story of Sarah, Abraham, and Abraham. And I'm going to read first from Genesis 17, verses 15 through 19. Then God said to Abraham, "As for Sarai, your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And I will bless her, and also give you a son by her. Then I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of peoples shall be from her." Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed, and said in his heart, "Shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child?" And Abraham said to God, "Oh, that Ishmael might live before you." Then God said, "No, Sarah your wife shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his descendants after him." So here we have Abraham 100 years old, Sarah at 90. We're told that Abraham laughed. We're told that Sarah and Abraham are going to have a son named Isaac, and the name Isaac actually means "he who laughs." Let me turn to Genesis 21, 1 through 7, for a little more on the story. And the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son who was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac. Then Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God had commanded him. Now Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. And Sarah said, God has made me laugh, and all who hear will laugh with me. She also said, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? For I have borne him a son in his old age. So in that passage, Sarah laughs. So laughter is in the Bible. I learned something as I was putting this together. There's actually a scientific term for laughter, for those that study laughter. The study of, I may not pronounce this right, I'm not sure, gelotology. Gelotology. Now, researchers have studied laughter. And what they've discovered is that laughter involves different regions of the brain. And they hooked people up to an electroencephalograph, and they measured the brain activity that people had after hearing a joke. Here's what they found. That the left side of the cortex analyzed the words and structure of the joke. So we've got the cortex involved. Next, they discovered the frontal lobe, which is involved in social emotional responses, became very active. Then, the right hemisphere of the cortex carried out the intellectual analysis needed to get or understand the joke. Then, brainwave activity spread to the sensory processing area of the occipital lobe. And then, the motor sections of the brain were stimulated, which evoked physical responses to the joke. So this thing called laughter that I think we all like, there's a lot more to it than what we might realize. This process is different from what happens with emotional responses, because the emotional responses appear to be confined to specific areas of the brain, while laughter seems to be produced by a circuit that runs through many regions of the brain. Now, what does that mean, or what implication does that have? That means that damage to any one of those regions can impair one's sense of humor and one's response to humor, according to experts. I don't know about you, but the thought of having that happen to me and impede my ability to laugh isn't very appealing. The laughter is triggered when we find something humorous. There are at least 3 theories about what we find humorous. The first, the incongruity theory, suggests that humor arises when logic and familiarity are replaced by things that don't normally go together. And it's that pairing of two things that don't usually go together that causes us to laugh. We're not expecting it. Second theory is the superiority theory comes into play when we laugh at jokes that focus on someone else's mistakes, stupidity, or misfortune. And unfortunately, sometimes we feel superior when that happens. And then the last, or the third, is the relief theory, which is a device that movie makers have used effectively for a long time, where a person is viewing a tense moment in a movie, and the tension keeps building and building and building. And so then a comic relief moment is put in to relieve us of the tension that's being created, causing us to laugh. So what are some conditions that cause us to laugh? First, when we see a humorous word or a funny picture or cartoon, or if we're able to visualize that in our minds, whether we directly see it or not. Second, when we're scared or nervous. Nervous laughs seem to relieve tension and help us over difficult situations. Third, when something good happens to us and we're happy and joyful, so we tend to smile and laugh. Fourth, when we're tickled. And we all seem to have certain sensitive spots for that. 5, when our minds are jerked. Most jokes cause laughter by jerking our minds. The joke takes us down a particular path. We think we know where that path is going, and then the punchline comes, and it's oftentimes something we're not expecting, and that causes us to laugh. Let's look at some benefits of laughter. Some physical health benefits. It relaxes the whole body and can leave muscles relaxed for up to 45 minutes. It boosts the immune system by decreasing stress hormones and increasing immune cells and infection-fighting antibodies, which improve our resistance to disease. It triggers the release of endorphins, our body's feel-good chemicals. It protects the heart by improving the function of blood vessels and increasing blood flow. It burns calories. One study found that laughing for 10 to 15 minutes a day can burn approximately 40 calories, which could be enough to lose 3 or 4 pounds over the course of a year. It may help you live longer. A study in Norway found that people with a strong sense of humor outlive those who don't laugh as much. And this was especially true for those battling cancer. Let's look at some mental health benefits. Laughter adds joy and zest to our life. It eases anxiety and tension. It relieves stress. It improves mood. It strengthens our resilience. It increases our energy. It stops distressing emotions. It helps us stay focused and accomplish more. It shifts our perspective, allowing us to see situations in a more realistic less threatening light. There are some social benefits as well. Laughter strengthens relationships. Sharing humor is half the fun. I mean, have you ever heard a joke or experienced a funny situation and you just can't wait to share it with someone? I think we all have. And that's what this is talking about here. It attracts others to us. We like to be around fun people. We like to be around people that laugh. It enhances teamwork. If you've ever been part of a group and the group is working on a project and it gets stressful for whatever reason, and then someone does something or says something that makes you laugh, it just eases the tension and makes everything go much better and everyone more productive. Laughter helps us avoid feeling overwhelmed. It promotes group bonding. It lets go of defensiveness. It helps us be more spontaneous. And that's something I need to work on. I'm kind of one of these persons, I like to know what's going to happen next. Well, guess what? How often do things really happen that way? They don't. They don't. And, I can get stressed out when things don't happen the way that I think they should or the way that I have them planned out. Where if I would just calm down a little bit, be a little more spontaneous, laugh, I would be better off. Next, I found some examples of some jokes about Bible stories. And these were jokes that children brought home to mom and dad after attending Sunday school. A little boy was sick on Palm Sunday, so he couldn't go to church. When his parents came home, they each held a beautiful palm branch. The little boy asked them what they were holding. They said that these were palm branches and that people had put them in Jesus' path as he passed by. The little boy responded, "Wouldn't you know that the first Sunday I'm sick, Jesus shows up?" The next one. A third grade Sunday school teacher was telling her class about the story of Elijah, the priest of Baal, and the contest on Mount Carmel. After telling how the priests of Baal were unable to call down the fire on their sacrifice, she told how Elijah prepared to sacrifice an ox by placing it on the altar. The teacher then told of how Elijah asked his followers to pour water on the ox. Next, the teacher posed a question to the class. Why would Elijah have his followers pour water on the sacrifice? A little girl at the back of the room raised her hand and said, "I know, because Elijah wanted to make gravy." A little 4-year-old boy came home from Sunday school and told his parents they were studying different names of Jesus. His father asked what name they had studied that day. The little boy responded, "Alpha and Omega." Adam was walking by the Garden of Eden one day with his sons Cain and Abel. Abel said, "What's that, Daddy?" Adam responded, "That's the Garden of Eden. We used to live there." "Why did we leave?" asked Cain. "Because your mother ate us out of house and home," Adam replied. On a similar note, Here's some comments that a teacher at a Catholic elementary school collected from her students. She had asked her students to respond to some Bible questions, and these are their responses, exactly as they had written them, with poor grammar sometimes and misspelled words. Here we go. The first commandment was when Eve told Adam to eat the apple. The seventh commandment is, thou shalt not admit adultery. Moses died before he ever reached Canada. Then Joshua led the Hebrews in the Battle of Jericho. Christians have only one spouse. This is called monotony. Solomon, one of David's sons, had 300 wives and 700 porcupines. One of the opossums was St. Matthew, who was also a taxi man. Jesus was born because Mary had an immaculate contraption. The people who followed the Lord were called the 12 decibels. Samson slayed the Philistines with the axe, A-X-E, of the apostles. The Egyptians were all drowned in the desert. Afterwards, Moses went up to Mount Sinai to get the 10 Amendments. Adam and Eve were created from an apple tree. Noah's wife was called Joan of Arc. Noah built an ark, which animals came to in pairs, P-E-A-R-S. David was a Hebrew king skilled at playing the lyre, L-I-A-R. He fought with the Philistines, a race of people who lived in Bible times. St. Paul converted to Christianity. He preached holy acrimony, which is another name for marriage. Jesus enunciated the golden rule, which says to do to others before they do one on you. He also explained a man doth not live by sweat alone. The epistles were the wives of the apostles. Okay. So, how can we get to the point of laughing more and thus benefiting more from laughter? Well, here are some suggestions. Set the intent to laugh more. Set aside special times to seek out humor and laughter. Include laughter in your morning routine. When you hear laughter, move toward it. Smile more. Read the funnies. Befriend a funny person. Read a funny book. Find a child you can hang out with. Get a pet. Play fun games with friends. Bring humor into conversations. Learn to laugh at yourself. Take up something new. I remember decades ago now, when I think I was a freshman at CMU, which would have taken it back to 1970. And back then, CMU had a requirement of all students that they had to take 4 credits of PE activity courses. They were 1-credit classes. And I am not Mr. PE, believe me. Never have been. And so I tried different things. Finally decided I'd take a folk dancing class. Okay. Well, not being the most coordinated person on the planet, I I did okay, but by the time we started with square dancing, but by the time it was time to move on to round dancing, I was just getting the hang of square dancing. So, it's kind of interesting. The last day of class, the teacher said, I'm going to talk individually to each one of you today. And I want you to tell me what grade you think you deserve. And she says, I'm going to tell you that no one in here deserves less than a B. And I'm thinking, oh, good. I've got at least a B in this class, right? Now comes my turn, and I said to her, I said, well, I think a B would be a fair grade. And she said she agreed with me. And then she says, well, one more thing. She said, you've got to work on your coordination. It's not the best. And then I spontaneously, and I don't know where this came from, I said, does CMU offer a class in coordination? She just kind of looked at me like, Let's see. Make time for fun activities. Start a scrapbook of funny things your family members say. Find your inner child. That reminds me, that one, find your inner child. When I was in high school, an English teacher of mine had us every day write in our journals, and she would put a quote up on the board. And one I'll never forget was one that says, no man is really a man who has lost out of him all the boy. And that to me is finding my inner child. Do more of what makes you laugh. Listen to sound bites of people laughing. Start a joke jar around the house. You hear a funny joke, put it in the joke jar. You're looking for something to make you laugh, you can pull one out of the jar. Try reciting tongue twisters. Send a funny greeting card to someone. Challenge a friend or family member to lip sync with you. Ask people to tell you the last thing that made them laugh. Don't go a day without laughing. As I draw this to a close, what putting this together has done for me has given me not only a greater appreciation for laughter, but a much greater understanding of our God. I believe we have a God who wants us to be happy, who wants us to laugh. And when I look at the physiology involved in laughing, as I went through with you very quickly, only our God could have designed something that intricate, something that would give us as much joy as laughter does. Let me leave you with a couple quotes. The first is by Dr. Timothy Brown, who is a retired president of Western Theological Seminary. He said, "The oil of laughter cools the engine of our overheated lives and keeps us from burning up in an anxious heap of unhappiness." Can you imagine how dismal it would be to live in a world without laughter? And the second one by Dr. L. James Harvey, who has written several books on laughter. He said, "Remember, you don't stop laughing because you're old. You grow old because you stop laughing." Let us pray. Heavenly Father, today we have focused on laughter. Help us to see the beauty in laughter. Help us to see your design of laughter. Help us to see the marvel that you were able to design something that's so easy for us to do. It makes us feel so good that is actually good for us and helpful to other people. I ask as we go through the days ahead that you help us to see the humor in things and to bring laughter to each other. This is my prayer. Amen.